Welcome to the Career Development Center Supercast. Today you're going to be viewing a supercast regarding the topic of resume writing. The Career Development Center is located on the second floor of the Student Center building, room 252. Our hours are Monday through Wednesday from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., Thursdays from 10 until 6 p.m., and Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. The telephone number is 913-469-3870, and our website is www.jccc.edu/career-development. Before we get started with today's topic, let's first go to our webpage to view some of the resources that are also available to you. From the Career Development Center's homepage, when you look at the list on the left, you'll see links to learn about yourself, investigate college majors, explore careers, get work experience, services for employers, and meet the staff. Today we're going to take the link for Get Work Experience. Some of our best resources when you're in the job search can be found from these pages. At the top of the page, notice the Career Spots videos. These are brief 3 to 4 minute videos that will have very timely and helpful topics with advice on things like how to prepare for the interview, how you write a cover letter. And so I urge you to visit the pages and check out some of these relevant videos. And then when you'll scroll down this page, you will see links to other helpful resources. The Job Search Correspondence Guidelines packet will show you how to put together a cover letter, a thank you letter, a reference page, and that type of correspondence that goes along with your resume. The Resume Guidelines is a separate packet, and this will have useful information as you're preparing your resume, and this will actually be referenced in our presentation today. So as we scroll down our page, you'll be able to see some of the other resources that will be helpful with your job search. Including with this link, you will have the information regarding mock interviews to practice for an actual job interview, and resume and cover letter critiques for the students who are in the active job search. And let's go back now to the topic on resume writing. A resume means a summary. It's a summary of you. It's going to be your job as the job seeker to be able to communicate the relevant attributes, skills, talents, and qualifications that you could bring to a particular job opportunity and an employer. The resume includes important things and relevant things about yourself. You're not going to be able to tell everything, however, so you will want to target your resume to what each specific job opportunity is going to be requiring. As you think about yourself, do not overlook any of these aspects about yourself. Your work experience will be very important, especially if it's related work experience. Also, your particular skills and your educational preparation. But it's not just those things. Don't overlook your personal attributes and what we call soft skills. We'll talk more about that later. I want you to guess how long it takes the employer in the first evaluation of applicants with their resumes. Guess how long the first review from employers generally will take when reviewing resumes from applicants. The first review really just between 5 and 20 seconds. So this tells you that everything on your resume, everything about your resume needs to be perfect. There should be no typos, no spelling errors. It needs to be well organized and express those most important aspects about yourself that the employer will need to know to consider you as a serious candidate. Later, another review will be longer when the entire resume will be scrutinized more closely. So this is why we say your resume must be perfect. It's up to you to make sure it's organized well so that it will be easy to read, and you do need to tailor it to each specific job opportunity. In order to make your resume the best that it can be, you must always start out with the research. The research is important. It's of primary importance in your job search. It's going to be apparent on your resume and also in your interview. You're going to research yourself to learn what your talents, what your skills, what your knowledge and experience are going to be that relate to this particular opportunity. You'll research the company so that you will know if this is a company that you would want to work for and what the scope of their business would be. And also research the position. You need to know what the position will require. Once you've done proper research, you'll be able to more effectively craft your resume to tailor it to that position. Each candidate will decide which format is going to be most appropriate, and that will depend upon your particular situation. You can see that the chronological format will emphasize your employment history, and so if you've had a steady employment with no gaps, and your upward mobility would be another apparent thing from the chronological format. And so if you use this chronological format, it's actually reverse chronology. You're going to start with your current or most recent employment first and then go back in time. And as a general rule, we say to go back about 10 years. Now the functional format, by contrast, is going to emphasize particular skills that relate to the job that you're seeking. You're going to be highlighting particular accomplishments and what your best strengths are as it relates to the job that you're seeking. You still will include your employment history, but it takes a more minimal part of your resume in this particular format. So to recap, the chronological is best when you want to show that you've had a good and stable work history, that you've been upwardly mobile, you've been promoted, you've been given higher levels of responsibility, and also if you're finding a job that's in the same field. This would be the perfect format for you to choose. The functional format is best if you're entering the job market for the first time, for your first full-time position after you've had your degree or certificate completed, or if you've had a variety of jobs. In other words, not a lot of experience in any one particular field, or if you're ready to make a completely different career change and you don't have paid experience in that particular field yet, and so you're breaking into a new career field. So that may be another reason that you would choose this format. So it depends on your particular situation, and which will best reflect you and tell about your strengths and your skills and knowledge. Typically the first section that you want to consider is simply containing your contact information. You should consider this your personalized letterhead. It gives you that branding that's your very own. It includes your contact information. You do want to include the city, state, and zip, and the telephone with the area code. These days, employers more and more are contacting the candidates with email, and so you do want to include an email address as well. If you don't have one, you can make one quickly through either Gmail or Yahoo or one of those places. There's no set way to present this information. This screen simply gives you some examples of how you might organize yours. This brings us to the importance of your personal internet presence, and we urge you to take a look at your social networking sites and see if there would be anything there that would be potentially embarrassing or prevent you from getting a second look from an employer. These days, more and more employers are using the internet to learn more about you. And for the employers, it does give them a free resource to use, and so you should be aware of this. Also, if you are posting resumes at the online job sites, you do want to remember to keep those current. The jury is out, I guess, on using a job objective, but if you do choose to use one, it will typically come right after the contact information. If you use an objective, it should reference the position or the title that you are seeking. It could address what level of responsibility or what particular skills or experiences you have that are going to be evidence of your qualification for this particular opportunity. Some employers would prefer to see a section that is more of a summary, something that might be called a profile, personal profile or professional profile, or strengths. Here's just a quick sample of a job objective. It names a particular job title, it names particular skills and training that this particular candidate will be seeking to use in the job search. Many resumes have some type of summary section. If you have not used a professional profile section already, this would be a very good way to briefly outline some of the best qualifications that you could bring to a prospective employer. Typically, if you have this kind of a section, it will be just a brief overview about yourself. It would be after an objective if you have an objective. It will cover such things as relevant experience, typically quantified by how many years, any specific education or training, or other credentials that you might have that is specific to the position that you're seeking. And it may include other skills or specific knowledge that you have that relates to this job opportunity, or it may include a significant accomplishment or two. This shows an example of what a summary section might include. Typically, if you have years of related paid experience, that would be high on your list. Any formal education or training that you've received that relates to the job that you're seeking, that should also come quite high on your list. Other specific skills and attributes that you can include will also help give the employer the best overview of you in just a short section such as this. If your education and training has been recent, then you're going to want this section before your work history section. If it's been some time since you've had your education and training, and more recently you've had the work experience, then the work experience will come higher on the page than this education section. But let's go ahead and take a look at the education section. Again, for the title of the section, call it what you prefer. It's your resume, you're crafting it. And so in this situation, you might call it education and technical skills. You're going to use the reverse chronology method of listing your education experiences. So you'll start with the current or most recent education first. You want to include any professional training you may have received. If you've also earned certifications or secured licenses relevant to the position you're seeking, you should include those as well. If your GPA has been a 3.0 or higher, that would be good to go ahead and list your GPA as well. Again, some examples of how this section might appear. For current students who do not yet have their degree or certificate completed, those students could have an additional section under this education heading that would name the particular courses they have completed already at this point. Accomplishment statements will probably be the hardest part of your resume. This is the part that deserves the most time dedicated to it. Not everyone has experience with writing accomplishment statements, and so it'll be important to understand what we're talking about. These are going to be brief phrases. They will not be complete sentences. The phrases are going to begin with verbs. They will be crafted in a way to explain what your job duties have been in your previous employment, but do so in such a way to explain what relevant skills and knowledge you used when you performed duties of that job. And it doesn't matter whether it's chronological format or functional that you're going to be using with your resume, you still will need to craft these accomplishment statements. So let's take a look at how to write some effective accomplishment statements. Let's begin with an action verb. You're going to choose a verb that will help you tell what you did in that previous experience. It's going to be a descriptive verb. You want to pay attention to the appropriate tense of the verb. If it's in your current employment and it's something you will be performing ongoing, it should be the present tense verb. If it's in a past or previous employment, then the verb should reflect that with the past tense. You will not be able to include everything you've done in your previous employment, and so you want to select those things that will be relevant to the career field or the job that you're seeking. Once you have your list of accomplishment statements, you may prioritize them to list the most impressive things first. Be brief, but not too brief. Don't sell yourself short. Be sure to tell enough to reveal the skills and knowledge that you possess. Whenever possible, quantify your skills and your experience by using numbers, dollars, percents. Also include, whenever possible, the frequency to quantify. How often did you generate reports, for example? Now, the accomplishment statements may seem very difficult to put together at first, but once you get started, it will get to be a little bit easier. We have some accomplishment statements right on the screen now. And if you take a look at these, give it some thought, and let's assume that you're the employer, not the candidate, but the employer. And the employer sees this on your resume that tells that you worked at Tangy Tuesdays, let's say. At Tangy Tuesdays, you greeted customers, you took food and drink orders, and you served meals and drinks. What do you think? Is the employer impressed at this point? Does the employer really know what you can do and what you know about serving customers in the food service industry? Or could these be improved? What about these? At first glance, you can see they've been lengthened. They've been expanded greatly. Not only that, but there have been specific words chosen that can quantify. There have been verbs that are particularly descriptive verbs. And the one thing that will take your best accomplishment statements to the next level is when you're going to be able to not only tell what you did in your job and the skills and knowledge that you used when you performed that job, but also when you can express how what you did in your job benefited the company's bottom line. Take a look at the first item here. Greeted customers and quickly established rapport to provide exceptional service and foster repeat business. Well, that fostering repeat business tells prospective employer that you understand how important the customer is and how what seems to be a low-level type of a job as a server or waiter or waitress, when you understand how what you do affects the company's bottom line, that's what will really connect with the prospective employer. You may not be able to do this on all of your accomplishment statements, but whenever you can, make that connection of how what you did benefited the company. Now, it does look a little bit different on your resume according to the format that you're going to use. And so looking at a chronological format, it's going to be in your experience or work history section. In that section, you'll include the company name, the city and state, your job title, the dates of employment, and it's best when you can include the months and the years. And there's no set number, but I would say between 3 and 5 accomplishment statements for each of your places of employment that you have on your resume going back about 10 years. So a sample with the visual here. Tangy Tuesdays was the company. You can see the dates of employment, the job title. It's organized well, it's easy to follow and understand. The accomplishment statements start with their verbs. They're all present tense verbs. The period at the end you can have or you can not have. It's optional, but you want to be consistent whether you have those periods at the end or not. Just be consistent. Now, if you're going to be using the functional format, you're going to be really expanding on the section that will be something like relevant skills. Again, you'll be able to call it what you want, but the focus will be on your skills as opposed to your paid work history. And so your skills you may have developed from paid work experience or from volunteer experience or from your classwork. It's usually the situation where you don't have a lot of relevant paid experience that you could relate to the employer, but you do have key skills. And remember, with your research, you've identified what those skills will be. And so it's going to be up to you then to highlight the most important skills that you can bring to this position. Again, there's no set number, but the recommendation might be between 3 to 5 skill set headings. And within each heading, maybe 3 to 5 accomplishment statements. And so think about some of the more common skills areas that are common to any employer. For example, customer service. If you have any experience with customer service, an employer can understand how that's a valuable skill. If the company doesn't have loyal customers, then they won't be in business. And so skills like customer service or communication skills or interpersonal skills, computer skills, there will be some of these more general skills areas that are what we call transferable skills. They can be used in more than one setting. And so those may be ones that you want to highlight on your functional format. Looking again at the examples, there are 2 accomplishment statements with this particular one. Remember, there's no set number that you need to have, but make sure that you're telling enough about the skills that the employer will want to know about. You still will have a work history section. Again, maybe you want to call it work history or work experience or just employment, whatever title you choose. But you will include the same facts about your employment that you would see on a chronological format. And so the work history on this functional format just has those facts about your employment. In this screen I can see that somebody didn't proofread to get the dates from Floyd's Fast Foods to align. Now, there may be other things that would be relevant to the position that you're seeking that you can also include on your resume. These things may be awards that you've received, particular honors. They could be activities or organizations that you've been involved with, especially if it's a professional organization or if it's been a student organization. If you've done volunteer work, anything that shows your leadership or the fact that you give back to your community, those will always be good things that you can also tell about yourself to an employer. You must always have a cover letter accompany your resume, whether your resume is the traditional resume that you send that's on paper, or if it's electronic resume. You should always have the cover letter. And that's where the resource on our job search correspondence from our web pages could be helpful. You will see and learn about the cover letter from that resource. You do not need to put references available upon request. If an employer invites you for an interview, that it will be typically when you bring your references with you. It's what we call professional references, meaning individuals that you've either worked for or worked with who could speak to your work abilities. You will see a sample of that page also in the job search correspondence packet. We've got proofread 3 times and recommend proofread even more than that. You cannot proofread too much. Remember that the first thing an employer is going to do in searching for the right candidate is to start to eliminate candidates. And if there are any typos, anything about it that's not going to be easy to read, if there's anything that doesn't make sense, it's going to be eliminated right from the very first go-round. And so proofreading will help improve your chances of being considered a serious candidate for the position. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Thank you for viewing the Resume Writing Supercast, and good luck on your job search.